give it just a couple minutes for people to log in, and then I'll
Sure.
kick off a quick intro, and then the floor is yours.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Thanks, Courtney.
Nice.
Good. How's Amanda doing?
She's doing well. She's doing
Good.
Nice.
Good. We see all you folks on Facebook. It's nice
Yeah.
watching your guys grow up, those little karate guys.
Oh, yes. Now we're big into flag football, and Adam,
Nice.
Yeah, I saw that.
Adam has coached back-to-back championships. So
Wow.
Just saying, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, we were a sports family too, with
Yeah.
Chris, Nick, Dan, and Mike having four sons. It was nonstop sports.
And you coached all of us too, yeah, at different times.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were pretty successful too.
you must have been very busy.
Oh my gosh. My wife's used to say, when are you going to sit with me in the stands?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then what we end up doing too is just emailing this out to people if they signed up and they aren't able to attend.
Sure. That's great.
You're talking.
Hey, Mark Hayden. Holy cow. Hello, Morgan.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mark's a good golfer.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear us.
I don't know if Mark can hear us.
Give it one more minute and we'll get started.
Sure.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our 5th session of the NEPMA Business Series. Please feel free to use the chat to ask any questions. Time at the end for questions as well. To do a little bit of an intro, Stuart and his sons, including Chris, run an exceptional family-owned business dedicated to helping owners understand the value of their companies and navigate the mergers and acquisition process, whether passing it down to the next generation or selling to another company. Stuart's journey began with building his own pest control company, which he later sold to Anti-Cemex. He then served as a mergers and acquisition specialist for them before launching his own firm. As the Aust Group expanded, Stuart brought his sons into the business to ensure seamless transitions for their clients. Chris has leveraged Stuart's expertise while carving his own path in guiding the business and business owners through successful transitions. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Chris and Stuart to share more about themselves and the process of valuing and selling a business. Thanks.
Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate the introduction, and thank you to Adam as well too for asking us to speak today. We were just saying it was warm weather in New Jersey when Adam asked, and I know we're in the throes of winter right now. And thank you, Gary, for the assistance with getting things set up today. And I just wanted to say what a blessing it is to speak with my son, Chris. We've spoken at a lot of events. We're actually speaking next week at the Pacific Northwest Conference in Oregon. So we're excited to be here today. We want to give you a little context about our family business that we grew for 25 years, Bug Doctor. I think it's a good motivator too. You'll see what we did in 25 years, and then how we transitioned to become mergers and acquisitions brokers. We concentrate on the pest control space. And then we'll jump into our presentation. And when we get into our presentation, we'll tell you there's a slide number 18. That's the slide. We're going to tell you from a purchaser's perspective what they're looking for. But let's go back a little in history. He's going to introduce me again. You did such a great job. I think you did most of Chris's introduction.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'll introduce Chris.
Yeah, awesome. Well, my name's Chris Aust. I'm the Director of Business Development at the Aust Group. Before I introduce my dad, just want to say, Courtney and Adam, thank you very much for having us on today. And appreciate you all being on with us as well. It's really such an awesome opportunity for me that I get to not only, do things like this webinar with my dad, but, I get to travel with him and speak at these different engagements. So I make a lot of memories with him. So it's really such an honor. Yeah, so thank you all again for being on too. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce my dad, Stuart. So this is kind of a quick snapshot on who my dad is in his professional career in the pest control industry. So it's kind of hard to just put it into a few lines, but my dad got his start working for Terminex and Western Pest Services back in the day, which is now Orkin. And then fast forward to 1992 was when he formed Bug Doctor Termite and Pest Control out of Paramus, New Jersey. And then in 2009, after scaling the business for several years, became a PCT Top 100 company for the first time, and went on to win for several more years. A few more accolades of my dad: MPMA Board of Directors in 2015. In 2017, won the PCT Crown Leadership Award. This is an award I won't forget because my dad brought us all on stage to receive the award in front of that, I don't know, hundreds of people would have felt like. So our entire family was up on stage receiving this award, which was really awesome. But then in 2016 was a real pivotal moment for the company when Anticimex came into the market and acquired Bug Doctor, which marked their first acquisition in the US. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Anticimex now and their platform companies. They've been on quite a tear of purchasing businesses left and right. So I think they're now a top 5 in the US alone. So that was really a pivotal moment and an awesome time in our lives. But then my dad joined Anticimex and was the VP of Mergers and Acquisitions. After a few years of doing that and bringing almost a dozen companies under Anticimex's wing, ended up us forming the Aust Group in 2018. So that's my dad in a nutshell. There's a lot more I could say about him, but that would take a few hours, I feel. So without further ado, Stuart Aust.
Good, and thank you, Chris. And I get the opportunity to introduce my son, Chris. And what was really cool is all our sons worked at Bug Doctor, Termite, and Pest Control. And Chris, with his brothers, would go door to door, and Chris was involved with marketing. He graduated from High Point University in High Point, North Carolina. That's where he met his sweetheart, and SJ, who he got married to, Samantha Joe. And she's an awesome woman, and they'll be married 2 years in June. And Chris is our director of business development at the Aust Group. He oversees all marketing. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if somebody's talking. He oversees all marketing initiatives for, we call ourselves TAG, the Aust Group. You can see on our shirts, TAG. If anybody wants a TAG hat, shirt, let us know. We got all kinds of merchandise to give away. But and Chris comes up with all that. With the marketing initiatives, he does our branding, traditional and digital marketing campaigns, social media management, content marketing, email marketing. If you see us in the pest control magazines, PMP and PCT, Chris puts all those ads together. If you see us on LinkedIn or Facebook, Chris is responsible for all that. If you get anything in the mail, it comes from Chris. If you get a MailChimp blast from us, it comes from Chris. He does a fantastic job. He's got a really special talent, and he's spoken at the North Carolina Pest Management Association conference. He has spoken at the Mississippi Pest Control Association conference. And I just want to say we've spoken for a lot of different groups. We've spoken for 2 groups in Florida, Pennsylvania Pest Control Association, also for Delaware. And Delaware was a group. It was a retreat. This is pretty funny. They asked us to speak for an hour and 15 minutes, so about an hour, and said 15 minutes for questions. But the facilitator said, "You guys are doing so good, just keep going." We ended up speaking for 2.5 hours at this conference. So We are not going to speak longer than an hour today, 45 minutes. So after that, Chris and myself, we were like drinking bottles of water. We were so parched. They were asking a lot of questions too, but that was a lot of fun. So it's great to be here with Chris and all of you folks. Thank you for attending today.
Yeah. And like we talked about, we're going to be speaking a little bit about Bug Doctor, but this is who we are now. We're the Aust Group. You could see in the picture on the left-hand side, that's us. That's me on the far left, my dad in the middle, and then my two older brothers. This was us at Pest World this past year in Colorado. Something about us, we're really blessed with such amazing clients and a lot of, sellers that we've been fortunate to represent. It's been really just such a great process of, getting to know them and their businesses. And so this past year, we were actually honored with being an Inc. 5000 fastest growing private company. And that's truly just a reflection, of our clients that we got to represent. But one of the things that I think really separates us is not only doing this with the M&A and being able to represent companies, but also having the background of not only owning a pest control company, growing it to be a PCT Top 100 company, and then eventually exiting. It gives us a lot of knowledge, not only from the M&A side, but from the perspective of a seller and what it's like to be in your shoes. So that's just a little bit about us. But we're gonna dive, like I said, into Bug Doctor. And so prior to the Aust Group was Bug Doctor. Dad, tell us just about Bug Doctor and a quick overview of it.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. We started in 1992, and it was like a roller coaster ride. We put on divisions: bird doctor, animal doctor, bed bug doctor, and just food for thought as you're growing your companies. We decided bird doctor was the first truck. We put it on the road, and it was really an experiment. And I tell you, the experiment took off. The year that before we sold, we did almost $3 million in bird work alone. Animal doctor took off, bed bug doctor, mosquito doctor. So, it really served us well. We created a nationwide network where we had over 100 pest control, bird control, animal control companies. It was like a best kept secret. So we were servicing Macy's around the country, J.C. Penney, Sports Authority at the time, Walmart, Sam's Club. And we made a lot of friends in the pest control industry by, hey, when you partner with another company, another pest control company, and you're both making money together, you can really forge some nice, partnerships in our industry. So here's a picture with a couple pictures in front of Yankee Stadium and Madison Square Garden. This is with Chris's brother, Dan. I know you folks are up in New England. Please don't hold it against us that we're Yankee fans. We were servicing the stadium for 18 years. Also, we're Knicks fans, so we realize your Celtics are better than us until proven otherwise. And the top right photo, that's not Photoshop. You see, my name's on the scoreboard, and they're welcoming Bug Doctor and Bird Doctor. We had an event at Yankee Stadium. We became a sponsor, and that was really cool. We invited 150 best clients, leadership team, some vendors. We played softball on the field, and Dwight Gooden, who used to pitch for the Mets and then the Yankees, he was pitching softball as we played on the field. So, obviously being in the pest control industry opens up a lot of doors for us all. It's very exciting. We're going to move on.
Just as we're talking about Bug Doctor, a quick timeline so you can kind of see all the different milestones and events. So 1992 was when the company was formed, and just a few years after that, Bug Doctor recorded its first $1 million in revenue. 2001 really opened the door to big, high-profile accounts with the account of Yankee Stadium as a client. 2009 was when Bug Doctor continued to scale and was eventually a PCT Top 100 company for the first time. 2011 was the Quality Pro designation that Bug Doctor earned. And then 2016, just 24 years after the company was formed, was when Anticimex joins the US market. So in 24 years, quite a lot happened with Bug Doctor. But Dad, as we're talking about, Bug Doctor, what really took your business to the next level?
Yeah, so when we started off, probably like a lot of you folks, we would service anybody. So I called ourselves the king of the pizzerias. It was easy to walk into a pizza shop and say, "Hey, can we put together a proposal and buy a slice of pizza and get a Coke?" And you're off to the races. We service so many bagelries, Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, Burger Kings, but about 5, 6 years in, we had a bit of a paradigm shift. We sold a college, became a client, a chain of Hiltons, and then we started going after high rises, mid rises, low rises. We started really getting into the property management business, and that took off like wildfire. And it was at the 8 year point that we brought in Yankee Stadium as a client, and that was really cool. So as we saw, we were able to manage and serve these larger accounts. We really had a paradigm shift. I've spoken at a lot of different NPMA conferences on sales, and I've always said what you work on selling is what you're going to bring in, and then eventually what you're going to service. Uh, but if you're going to service high rises and corporations and larger accounts, you want to walk before you run, and you want to get to a point where you can honestly handle and service these type of accounts. So we were really blessed over the years. Uh, I don't know where the epiphany came from to start targeting these kind of accounts, but we graduated, I say, from the king of the pizzerias to the king of the high rises. This is a quote from myself. It was we wrote an article for PMP magazine. I used to wonder who provided pest management services to those big high profile accounts. I never imagined it could be us. And really that's what happened over the years. And the other thing which is really cool, as we're all sitting here on this call, PMP magazine, Pest Management Professional, and also PCT magazine are always looking for content. So if you feel like writing articles, call us. We'll tell you who to get in touch with. Press releases. This is all good for branding your company. When we went to the market, our pest control company was all over the pest control magazines for many years. We'd been on the front cover a bunch of times. We would even utilize the articles as PDFs to get us new business. So pretty cool stuff, how we graduated over the years, and very proud of what we built over the years.
Yeah, and Dad, as we're talking about, these high profile accounts that you were able to land while at Bug Doctor, how did cold calling, really help, and how important was it?
Cold calling was big. I mean, that was how we got in the door. Premier accounts, corporations, a lot of them don't typically call you. I mean, once you start servicing a lot of these accounts, then you start getting the phone calls. But there's an art to it. And I got to tell you, folks, not to brag, when I was at Western Pest, and this is certainly not bragging, when I first, I had to, my job was a commercial account executive. When I first started cold calling at Western, there were some times I got so tongue tied I didn't know what I was saying. There were a couple times I just hung up the phone. I was just like, oh my gosh, that was bad. But the thing is, if you keep practicing, you get better at what you do. And follow up, be bold. And, I think cold calling was a big part of our business. We had a lot of residential accounts too, but you'll see on the next slide some of our accounts.
Yeah, we wanted to, highlight just some of the major high profile accounts that Bug Doctor was servicing. And Dad, how many out of these, I think we have 20 up on the screen here, were a result of a cold call?
Yeah, 18 of these were from cold calls. Rockefeller Center was a lead that we got at the Jacob Javits Center. United Nations came from a friend of mine, Willie Alvarez, who has a construction company. If you notice, very strategically, I put Gillette Stadium right in the middle up top. I wanted you all to see that. We were very proud to get Gillette Stadium as a client. We did so much bird work up there. It was amazing. And when we first got Gillette Stadium as a client, we're Jet and Giant fans down here in New Jersey. We're not a threat to anybody except ourselves. We we're, as you know, we both teams are not that good. But my son Nick, Chris's brother, had said, "Dad, how are we going to hate the Patriots anymore? Now they're a client." I said, "Nick, once they're a client, we don't hate them anymore." And we loved, I'm not overhyping it. I just want to tell you, the Patriots, every time they won a Super Bowl, they would open up the scoreboard to put in another banner in there. Our netting was on both sides of the scoreboard, so we always got a big bird job every time the Patriots won a Super Bowl. So we netted off the tower too on the other side, opposite the scoreboard where they would have the banners. And really, you can see the clients that we have here just was really amazing over the years. And that was a big part of our success, was the cold calling. We had a lot of fun going after these type of clients.
Stuart, not to interrupt, but as far as I know, my team in general can get discouraged if they're calling and following up and they're texting and they're emailing, and not in an annoying way, but consistently. Do you have any recommendations, or did you have any data on how many times you were following up before maybe you got to the correct person or the decision maker, or they made that decision for you?
Yeah, we could do another webinar on that. Maybe
Part two.
later in the year. But Courtney, that's a great question. And I would just, it's persistency. And it's just, I would have like a little scorecard on the side, and I would mark down every call that I made, cold calling. I think the first call, you want to find out who the decision maker is and get their contact information. And then it's calling periodically, like once a month. I can tell you, the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, I called them for over 10 years. The gentleman's name is Mike Freshour. I don't know if he's still there, but he was like, "I got a guy," But I kept calling, and I was not calling to talk to Mike Freshour necessarily. I was calling, hopefully, eventually he had retired or took a job somewhere else. So it's really persistency. And when you make those calls, sometimes you just hit it right. And we have a great article about cold calling. We were on the front cover with Yankee Stadium. If anybody wants that article, we're glad to send the PDF over. Just let us know afterwards, and we'll get that on over to you.
Yeah. Awesome. And we want to include this slide too, just piggybacking off of, the accounts that my dad serviced. So as the child of a pest control owner, riding along with my dad in the car. I'm sure your kids probably experienced the same thing. But him pointing out, hey, we serve Mrs. Jones's house over there. Hey, we serve that, service that apartment complex over there. As a kid, I thought it was really funny, but it happened quite a lot. But as I grew older, I've really come to appreciate what my dad has done, and because I know he took a lot of pride in those accounts. So don't stop ever doing that to your kids, because I'm sure they'll come around and appreciate it. But Dad, I don't know if you want to touch on it from your perspective too.
Yeah, so Chris's older brothers, Dan and Nick, were full-time in sales with us. And it would be funny because I'd be riding around with Dan and Nick, and they were like, "Hey, Dad, I sold that building." So it came full tilt. I mean, I remember when they were young, they were kind of sitting in the back seat. Oh, here goes Dad again. They had that kind of look like, who cares? That's paying for everything, all those buildings over there,
Yeah.
But cool stuff. Moving deeper into the presentation, when we were a bug doctor, we purchased 5 companies, and I think a lot of you can relate to this. It's a good way to grow. I mean, obviously growing organically, but I wanted to share with you, if I knew the multiple we were going to get, when I sold Bug Doctor, I would have been buying more pest control companies or looking to buy more companies. These companies that are here ranged in size from 100,000 to 250,000. Most of them we bought for $1 on the dollar. A lot of the smaller companies can come at a great value because what's happening is the smaller companies, the big players are typically not looking at them. They want companies $1 million. Some have a threshold, $750,000 or higher. But that's something that I definitely would encourage you. We're going to talk about that as we get into the next slide. Multiple arbitrage. This is the practice of increasing the value of a company without having made any operational improvements to it. In other words, you are arbitraging the multiple at which the company is bought and sold. You folks have probably heard out there some of the multiples being paid for companies, could be 3-4 times on a multiple of revenue, depending on the size of the company, depending if they're hitting all the KPIs, which we're going to be talking about shortly, and metrics. But for instance, those companies that we bought at 100,000 or 250,000, you apply the same multiple that once those companies are integrated into your company, if your company sells for 3 times on a multiple of revenue and you buy the company for 1 time, what an amazing investment you've made in a short period of time. And it's also exciting for staff too. Hey, when you're buying companies and now you have other people, you're developing leaders on your staff who can be in charge of integration or this, that, the next thing. But that was a great way for us to grow. I'm glad we bought the 5 companies, not to sound greedy. We did great when we sold our company. Which we'll talk about, in this industry that we're in, what an amazing industry we are in. The pest control industry can not only provide immediate financial stability for you and your family, but a pathway to retirement. I mean, there's owner operators that are making 200, 250, 300,000. Years back, Chris and myself, we met with a guy and he was doing 450,000 and pretty close to 375 was what he was servicing like 3 towns out on Long Island.
Yeah.
Whether you're a small company, you can do so well, or if you're a medium size or a big company, but when you sell, for us, selling the company was like our family. It was like we won the lottery. And the years of building your business, whether you're going to sell it or you're going to pass it on to family members, what an amazing industry we're in this pest control industry.
Yeah, no, agreed. And, that was exactly why we wanted to highlight Bug Doctor, because just like my dad, as a business owner, you're faced with either the decision of, do I sell my business down the road, or do I transition it to a family member, or to the next generation, whoever it might be. Whichever, lens that you're viewing this from, at the end of the day, you want to position your business for success. So by positioning your business for success, these are the 6 key areas that we like to say are the ways to maximize the potential of your business. Service, number 2, sales, which we briefly spoke about with Bug Doctor and the cold calling. 3, marketing. 4, your team, your leadership team, your technicians, quality team. Number 6, we have acquisitions, which Stuart just spoke on briefly. But for today's purpose, we're really going to focus in on the KPIs. And what you measure is what you get. This is a quote from H. Thomas Johnson. And Dad, just elaborate a little bit on this and what it relates to with KPIs.
Yeah, so what you measure is what you get. We really need to keep an eye on our financials. And once we start making a study of our business, that's when we get better at it, when we start measuring things. I've got to say, I'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly on these webinars. God obviously blessed us the first probably 10 years of being in business because I was flying by the seat of my pants. I don't know what I was doing as far as financially. I was just glad we made it through the first 5 years. They say in the first 5 years, 80% of businesses go out of business. The next 5 years, another 75, 80% go out of business. But we got to a point where I was like, you know what, we're at 5 million in revenue plus, and I need some help. I mean, we're bringing in a lot of revenue, but I was like, you know what, I I gotta get this to the next level. And for those of you that are on the call today, I would strongly encourage you to look into the NPMA mentorship program. I had an incredible mentor, Gene Chafe. He was from your neck of the woods. He was lived in New England. He also worked for Sensky Pest Control out on the West Coast. And we would get together on the phone once a month. We would go over the budget. We would look at, my profit and loss statement, balance sheet, AR reports. And he said to me, Stuart, I'm going to get you profitable. I'm going to help you get there. And then when I get you there, I'm going to cut you loose. And that's exactly what happened. And I would strongly recommend, getting a mentor and someone that really wants to assist you in concentrating on the financials. And the reason we're telling you all this is because as we head into the next slide, this is the most important slide, folks, of our presentation. And we're going to give you, through the lens, through the eyes of purchasers, there are right now, you have your strategic companies, the Orkins, the Rent-A-Kill, the Anti-CMAX, and then you have probably close to 25, if not more, and then possibly more. I'm speaking to a private equity company at 2 o'clock this afternoon that wants to get into the industry. But Chris and myself, we're going to tell you from each slide, each KPI, we're going to tell you what the metrics are. So, compare it, write it down. This is the slide to pay the most attention to. This is the purpose of us being on this call today. Recurring revenue. This is one of the most important things that purchasers are looking at. I would say shoot for at least 70% recurring revenue, if not higher. We've had clients in the 80s, close to 90% recurring revenue. The higher your recurring revenue, that is where the purchasers, that's their formula. Part of their formula is what is the recurring revenue. So a high recurring revenue is extremely important. Shooting for 70% is, I would say 70% at a minimum.
Yeah, number two, we kind of see go hand in hand with recurring revenue for what the buyers really look at as probably one of the most important metrics when valuing a company is EBITDA, a fancy acronym for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, or otherwise known as profitability. It ultimately shows the health of your business and how well your company's performing financially. A good EBITDA, I would say margin would probably be around that 20 to 25%. The higher, obviously, the better. But we've worked with companies that have been 30 plus. So, pest control, it truly is an incredible industry because you don't see margins like this in other service industries. So it's really incredible. But we do see some purchasers won't even put an offer in unless a company's EBITDA margin is roughly 20%. So EBITDA goes hand in hand, and those are probably the top two that they're really looking at.
Yep. And to Chris's point, those are probably the two most important slides. Cancellations, churn rate, as we all know, that's another great thing to track. You may not want to track it. You may want to just stick your head in the sand, but it's a tough thing to look at. But cancellation rate, churn rate should be less than 20% or less for the year. If you can get that number down to 1.5% or lower per month, that would be at 18% for the year. The reason why we tell you this is if it's above 20%, we have those intimate calls with our clients, the seller. We also have the calls with the buyers. They tell us, hey, cancellation rate is 28%. And, that's something that would be a red flag to a potential purchaser. So keep it less than 20% for the year. Try to keep it under the 1.5% per month.
Yeah, and number 4 we have here is leadership team. Do you have a leadership team in place? If you were to say go on vacation, or say you were sick, or were away from the business for a period of time, do you have a leadership team or a management team that not only can keep you afloat but manage well in your absence? And as your business matures year by year, you want to be developing leaders, looking for good talent to bring in that can really, grow your business, where that you're not so involved in the day-to-day, but can be looking from a high level perspective.
That looks really well to purchasers too.
As well, yeah.
When they see that the owners are leaving, typically owners stay on most of the time, unless they roll equity, but they typically stay on as a consultant for 90 days. So if there's a good leadership team in place, purchasers will tell us, we're really excited about the leadership team. They want to know, can these people run the company once the owner or owners leave? So that's important. If you can have that vision for down the road, especially as you're growing, groom these people for the eventual day where you may step out. Purchasers love to hear that owners are on vacation a lot. We had one owner that he would spend every winter in Costa Rica, and the purchasers were like, "Oh, that's good, sir. Your company's really running well without you being there." So developing that leadership team, like Chris was saying, is a big thing too. Revenue per technician at Bug Doctor, and meanwhile, hey, we sold close to nine years ago. We were shooting for 22,000 minimum per route per technician. That came out to over 260,000 per year. So I would say that's a good barometer. You can also you can get it up to over 300 with proper routing. Chris will talk about pricing in a minute, but this is something that purchasers are looking at. We prepare a presentation of our clients' companies, and we have in there revenue per technician because purchasers want to see that. They want to see that, hey, this is a highly profitable company. The technicians have great production. Those are companies that are going to sell at a great value. We have clients $300,000 close to $400,000. You may say, how does that happen? It's through pricing and selling in a tight, dense geographic area. So Chris will talk about that a little bit in the pricing.
Yeah, no, and just piggybacking off of pricing, even before we do talk about it, I think one of the things that we've seen in recent years is just how valuable pest control services are, especially with COVID and just in recent years alone. So you realize that you are offering this premier service, so with a premier service, comes along, strong pricing. So you should be implementing, premium pricing with these services, just because, they're really needed. And when you look at your pricing, how does it compare to, to the competition? Are you on the lower end? Are you on the higher end? I think we typically see around $150 to $200 an hour on average, just from the companies that we've been representing. And then also with your pricing, are you implementing price increases yearly? Because this is something that purchasers are doing. So when they see that you're doing that, they're look like, okay, great. This company is offering those price increases to their existing customers. So if we go ahead and do that, then, it won't be as high of a cancellation rate at that point. So pricing is something that purchasers hone in on. So definitely recommend taking a look at that.
Yeah. Number 7, thanks, Chris. Number 7, residential service model. The residential service model now that is basically swept the nation. We represent companies from both coasts, and then also in Canada as well too. It is a service the exterior model, interior on request. And we're seeing companies all across the nation servicing 15, 18 stops a day when it's routed properly and when they're selling in a tight geographic area. I got to tell you, I could rifle off half a dozen, 10 names of purchasing companies right now. When they hear that our client has the residential service model, this service model, they love that. I got to tell you, back when I ran Bug Doctor, hey, that was for almost 25 years. We're in the 90s and the early 2000s. We went into every house. We serviced the exterior, we serviced the interior. Hey, we were lucky if we got 7 or 8 services done. 10 was big, but the model has changed. And, so have people. People don't want that interior service if they don't need it. The next slide is really important too. It's costs. This kind of ties into your budget. We actually have a PDF too. If you'd like, a copy of that, let us know. And we're glad to send that to you. But some of the costs, for instance, labor should be in the 45 to 50% range. Inventory, at Bug Doctor, we tried to keep it at 5%. We say between 5 and 7%. Advertising, and I'm just kicking out some of them, 5 to 6%. You may say, hey, I'm spending 10%, and we're growing at 15, 20% a year. I would say too, no reason to cut back on your advertising, especially if you're not looking to sell in the near term. Sometimes we see some companies cut back a little bit as they get closer to selling. They really start to tighten up the cost. Your rent, your lease should be about 2-3%. A lot of us rent from ourselves. We own buildings, so we charge ourselves crazy money. We can't charge crazy money to the purchaser afterwards because they want a market lease. They want a market rent. They're like, hey, you're charging double, So anyway, all kidding aside, but if we can help you out, please reach out to us. Costs are very important. Reason being, when we put the presentation together and there's management meetings with our client, the seller, and the purchasers know what the percentages should be. And they'll say, hey, they'll get back to us, or it may come up in the management meeting. That you're spending a lot of money here. Could you explain that? So it's good to get a handle on these things before you go to the market.
Stuart, going back to the residential service model, is the subscription model advantageous as well?
It is. It is. Yep. The subscription model is good. One of the things about the subscription model is, say, just for easy sake, it's $150 a month, and you have their credit card and you're charging $50 a month. That's great. You run it on the credit card. When it can be not a problem, but no purchasers out there are going to give our clients, the sellers, credit if they get prepaid for a year. So for instance, the prepayments at a closing, they're going to have to pay back whatever services. That's going to be a credit back to the buyer, which makes total sense. But that's a good question, Courtney. The subscription model, that is great, And they say anything under $100, most husbands and wives, they skim right over that on a credit card statement,
Yeah. Awesome. And the last one we have here, number 9, is year-over-year growth. Typically, when you think of year-over-year growth, you're thinking of top line, where your revenue is. But there's a lot of ways that you can also track your year-over-year growth. I mean, wanting to see that recurring revenue number increase, wanting to see, your profitability increase. But obviously, top line is very important as well. Purchasers like to see, about 10%, if not higher, the better. But, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like if your top line is growing, you also want to see, your profitability growing as well. And buyers typically like to see a 3-year history of those two both increasing over the years. So these are just the 9 that we found that were appropriate. There's so many more KPIs that are out there, but these were the 9 that we see quite a bit with our meetings with potential purchasers.
Yeah, and if I may add in this, we gave you the slant from the purchaser's playbook. That's how they're looking at these things. So the other thing is, you may be on the call today and you may say, hey, I'm not planning on selling, and I'm not planning on selling anytime soon. I'm going to pass it on to my family members. Well, to build a profitable and efficient and a well-tuned pest control company, if you follow those KPIs and some of those numbers that we were presenting, you're going to turn over a really healthy business to the next generation. So we say, I love this quote from Steve Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People: begin with the end in mind. This is a very important concept. You can change your financial outcome. And what I mean by that is, by looking at the different KPIs that we talked about, and then starting to work on them. I got a call, Chris and myself spoke at a conference in Mississippi, and I got a call from one of the people that attended, and he said, I got 7 of them. I got them right. I know the 2 that I got to work on. And he's like, your talk was so helpful. It's really motivating me to really get this thing right. So this way, when I eventually do it. The problem is sometimes we get people call us up and they say, I'm done. Chris, Stuart, how fast can we sell? Can it be sold in 6 months? And then we say, we look under the hood and we're like, oh gosh, they got a good company, but they need some help. So we're giving you the formula, to bring your business up. And hey, we're all owner operators and we're doing the best we can. And I always admire folks that are, listening in and want to better their companies. So, kudos to you folks today for being on. But begin with the end in mind.
Nope.
You're beginning, you're looking at things. Even if you're in business for 10 or 20 years, you can still change the course, the trajectory that you're on.
Yeah, as we begin to kind of wrap up, just highlighting our services. Obviously, we do mergers and acquisitions for those that are ready to sell their business and want to, exit. So work with someone who has been in your shoes when the time is right to sell your business. Dad, just give a little, highlights on our mergers and acquisitions process.
Yeah, so I think to the point, it's good to have somebody, first of all, that's been in your shoes, that really understands the pest control industry. It's also good to have, a broker that you're really comfortable with, and someone that also realizes the ins and outs. I got to say, it's a very emotional process, or it could be emotional. You're selling your baby. I mean, this is what you built. I thought I was going to be the bug doctor until I went to my grave, until the end. But I dipped my toes in the water just to see, what it was worth, and to my surprise, it was really good. But you really want to go with a company too that's going to represent you well and put together a really good presentation. But on top of that, that's going to spend the time with you to get you ready for the management meetings, to role play and to coach you, and to call you back when you have a question. It's a big event, and for most people, it's going to be the largest transaction in their life. And I know for me it was, I don't see a larger transaction in my life coming since that. And anyway, with that all said, it's good to go with someone that's been in your shoes.
Yeah. And for those that aren't, at that point yet where they're looking to sell, or maybe they're just trying to get their business in order, or maybe 3 to 5 years out, or even 10 years out from that moment, we do provide valuations and let us perform a valuation range so you can maximize value when you're ready to sell. Dad, just give a little bit about our valuation offering.
Yeah, so we're doing a bunch right now. Different folks that we know in the industry and that have reached out to us. Um, Not only doing a valuation range, so we will look at the KPIs, the metrics, the financials, but then on top of doing the valuation, we're really doing an evaluation of the company. So we'll tell people where they're strong, where they need some shoring up, where they need some work. Get this number higher, get that number higher. And we've got people that I talk to on a regular basis that, hey, they let me know, Stuart, my recurring revenue is up from 50%. We're 57%. We're 59%. So one company, good folks over there, but they're listening and they're realizing, hey, we want to when we go to the market, we want to go strong, and there's not like a big rush to do that. But we will, based on comps, based on knowing what the purchasers will pay on other transactions, we come up with a valuation range for our clients. We had one client I was speaking to, and nice sized company, and he had said to me, Stuart, we're going to probably sell in about 7 to 10 years. And he wanted a valuation. He said, let's go through the process, do the valuation. We gave him a valuation, and he said, "You're serious. This is what you really feel confident." We ended up getting him more. He was going to sell in, like I said, 7 to 10 years from the original conversation. I think it was a year and a half. We had spoke a bunch of times in between. So, some people, it's just a peace of mind. Where am I at? It's kind of like a good way to assess what you're worth, and then also what needs fixing, if anything at all needs fixing.
And I mentioned, we've done quite a number of transactions and have had amazing clients over the years. Just to highlight a few of the New England ones, it's a great time to have a pest control business, especially in the New England market. Like I said, I'm sure a lot of you are probably getting emailed or called from whether it's private equity firms or whether it's strategic buyers looking to invest or to purchase your company. But when that time is right for you. But like I said, it's a really great time. Multiples continue to be at an all-time high. So you can see at the top just a few in New England that we've done, and then at the bottom just the ones in the United States and other parts of North America as well, in Canada. So for us, we're really blessed to have great clients, and it's really just a great time in the industry.
This is a picture of our family. This was Pest World 2023. We were in Hawaii, and then all our wives came out and the grandchildren came out, and we ended up going on to Kauai. And I put down here, as a family and business together, we strive to treat our clients with the utmost integrity. We hold ourselves to a standard and seek to maintain relationships with our clients even after closing. We work so closely with our clients. We actually have become close friends with a lot of our clients. It's so cool to work intimately with people, and then to, see them exit and get on to the next stage of their life. It's so exciting. And, we've made friends all around the United States now, and Canada, and, we're having a lot of fun doing it. And it's always awesome too if we can exceed our clients' expectations and get them more for their business than what they were hoping for. My son Dan, he always says we help our clients become millionaires, and some have really become multimillionaires, and it's cool to see. But we take a lot of pride in what we do, and we look at each and every client. It's really an honor and a privilege to represent our clients with such an important event in their lives. And really just want to thank all you folks for attending today. Want to thank Courtney and Adam for having us, and the New England Pest Management Association for having us as well too. We have both our cell phone numbers there, both our emails. We're good. We call people back. We try us out. we call back pretty quickly. We pride ourselves on being good responders. I think that's the word. But just wanted to close and see if anyone had any questions. And hey, we didn't go 2.5 hours. We're at 56 minutes. So any questions? Any thoughts?
Did have two separate questions as you were kind of going through this. So, Chris, you had said that the year over year growth, they're looking for like a 3-year history of increase. Is that true for all of the other KPIs that you went through? Like, what are they looking for? Obviously, they don't want you to be a flash in the pan. You had an awesome year. That doesn't mean that you have longevity there. So what are they looking for? Are there certain metrics, certain periods of time that you should be assessing this over?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's certain, companies that are looking, I think when you get more private equity, they're really looking at that profitability. But some strategics will be looking at that year over year growth, and, maybe they're trying to get into a market and they want to, have a company that's growing in that market so that they can continue that growth in that specific market. I think you get a mixed bag though of companies and what they're looking for. But if you have a profitable business and you have one that's growing consistently year over year top line, I think between that and the recurring revenue, probably the things that from the 9 list, the 9 KPIs that we had on the list, probably the most important on that.
Awesome.
Chris does a great job of putting together our SIMS confidential information memorandum. It's the presentation, the book. Those can be pretty extensive. But Courtney, that's a great question. And we do track. We're going to put 3 years of financials into the SIM, into the presentation, and we want to show trends. So especially if a company is doing well for 3 years, we always say it's better to be, well, certainly better to show a trajectory of increasing over the 3 years, to Chris's point, as opposed to sometimes we'll get a call from a declining business and we'll ask them, is there any way you can, start to, get the trajectory going over the next 2 years? So maybe they've been on a downward spiral, or they're flat, or because that is a concern of purchasers. If they see revenue is going down from the year before, we like to show they were 72% recurring revenue in 2023. Then they were 77% in 2024. So it's an improving business, and with a trajectory going up is always a good thing, and the other thing too, this is really important. We refer to it as TTM, trailing 12 months. Purchasers are really honed in on the trailing 12 months. So when you go to the market, we always tell our clients right from the very beginning, don't take your foot off the gas. You got to keep selling, you got to keep growing. So as we go into the market, if revenue is up, they're going to take that into consideration. So that's an important thing too, item is the trailing 12 months. we'll add that into our next presentation.
Number 10. Yeah.
Awesome. And then final question, if you're offering other ancillary services, like such as wildlife, is that calculated in the recurring revenue percentage, or do they take that out if they're not interested in the wildlife section or some other service that you might be offering?
Yeah, we're seeing more buyers are interested in the wildlife. The one thing I would say for the wildlife, just food for thought, is we used to always sell an annual service warranty after you do the work. We did the same thing for bird work too. And service warranties, just like for termite, carpenter ant, etc., that counts as annual revenue. So we would draw a graph, and if we did exclusion at the front of the house, at the gutter line, that would be the area. And it also got us out there in front of the client. But more and more, we see the companies are, like years back, pest control companies didn't really do mosquito control. If you back the clock up 15, 20 years ago. So I think, not to brag, but we were on the cutting edge when West Nile had hit. Hey, let's throw a mosquito doctor truck on the road and see what happens. And then next thing, people were calling, same thing like bird doctor and animal doctor. So I would just say though, don't concentrate on those add-on services. Really concentrate on growing your pest control and growing that recurring revenue. I'm not saying don't do the one-time work, but even if you do one time, put together a proposal. Some folks won't. There are a few companies that won't take business if it's one time. They're like, you got to be on a program, and it depends on the type of business too. But anyway, no, it's been great to be on today, and please tell Adam we said hello, and thank you to everyone on. I see a few names that we're familiar with, Mike Peasley and Mark Hayden. I didn't scroll down, so I don't know who else is. If we know you, we're saying hello.
Well, thank you, Stuart and Chris, so much. We really appreciate your time today. This was very informative. I took a lot of notes just to measure the health of the business. I think is just an overall great thing to do anyways. So thank you guys again. And just as a reminder, we have spring training on March 4th at the Royal Plaza Hotel and Trade Center in Marlborough, Mass. for up to 6 credits. And our final business series of our 6-part series will be held on March 18th from 10 to 11 a.m. and we'll focus on CSR training. That's going to be with Margaret Garcia from Grit. So thanks, everyone.
Oh, thanks, Courtney.
Thanks, Courtney.
Nice day, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Have a good one. Take care.